Hello, everybody. Welcome to GrassChat. I am Russ, of course, from GrassChat, and this, to keep the word going, is GrassChat's actual GrassChat, where we sit down and we speak to a various guests and we discuss everything throughout their autograss life and possibly a little bit more. I'm pleased to say that my guest this evening is somebody you might not actually be too familiar with, because they haven't actually been autograss racing all that long. But they certainly got the buzz of the sport, and they're well drawn into it and enjoying every minute of when it's allowed to happen. My guest tonight is Helen Blake. Good evening, Helen. I hope you're okay.
Very well, thank you. Hope you are too.
Good, good. So have you managed to keep yourself preoccupied, keep yourself safe, obviously, in these still difficult times? Obviously, things are starting to close towards the better side of it, hopefully. But you've managed to look after yourself, have you?
Yeah, I've kept safe. I have been working throughout, but on reduced hours. But I'm back full time now. I've been for the last month. So yeah, we've just kept safe. Been watching your GrassChat races to remember, and just keeping the buzz going like that, really.
Okay, so we're going to discuss a bit about your autograss life, which actually is only a few years old. I believe you only started watching the sport in about 2017, so only a few years ago. It might be a bit longer. You'll tell me on that, no doubt. But you was actually very kind to contribute some of your story to our GrassChat magazine, which failed sadly. we only got 4 issues through, but you was the only person to actually help contribute to all 4 magazines with your story. Did you enjoy writing that? Actually expressing what is a young autograss life?
Yeah, I loved it because, well, my original idea was to get more ladies involved in the sport because it's such a man-orientated thing to do, isn't it? I know there are obviously lots of lady races out there, but up here you don't seem to get that many. And when I talk to people about being a racing driver, they're like, "What? But you're a girl?" It's like, "Yeah, we can drive." So I originally wanted to get people and more ladies into it, and I don't know if I might have achieved that by my articles. But then I actually just really enjoyed writing about how I got involved and how I sort of got into it and then got really into it, and I just wanted to share my story really, and I really enjoyed writing, so I just wanted to carry it on.
No, it is great to read because it is always interesting to see how people actually get into the sport or get into anything. There's all sorts of ways. Obviously, some people are born into it throughout their family. They've done it for generations, and it's the same with any hobby, any objective, any job. But you actually came into it completely from the outside world of not knowing what the sport is, not knowing what the word autographs meant. So how did you actually discover the sport? How did you even find out that it existed?
Well, it was way back. It was probably 2007, maybe 2008, and
Okay.
my fella at the time randomly said, "Let's go and watch this sport that I've heard about." So we drove all the way up from Leeds up to here. I didn't know what YD was. I didn't have a clue, and we went to go watch this racing that involved driving around in an oval shape and lots of mud. And I thought, this is excellent. I want a piece of this. And I drove a Vauxhall Corsa at the time. It was my first ever car. And it was coming to the end of its sort of road life. And I thought, do you know what? Maybe I could get like someone to sort this out. Maybe I could get this Corsa and turn it into a GrassChat car. Anyway, it was just a big dream and it never happened. And then years later, I moved up here, and I was then introduced to it by Phil Sherwood, who used to be the chairman of YD. And he introduced me to the sport, and he was very, very, very kind. And he got me my first ever autograss car, which is a Class 6. And he showed me it, and I was like, I don't even know what this is. What is this? I knew it was a Fiat Punto, but I didn't know what I was looking at. It was telling me it's such a good car. It's a really good car. And I was thinking, is it? It looks like half a car to me. I really was clueless. I've been to help out a little bit during the nationals, the ladies and juniors nationals in 2015, and I loved watching. And I thought I want to get involved in this, but I didn't have a clue. I was absolutely clueless. So I really have started right from the beginning at an old age.
So obviously, then something, just the overall buzz of it, the crowds which can be there, and I suppose the quickness of the races, how they can be over in a flash, and you've really got to to be on it when you were a driver, but there's that buzz of watching it as well and cheering people on and as such. So that really did draw you in. So when did you just like have a quick decision? Yeah, I want to do more of this. I want to actually get involved. How did it come about that you actually got involved to helping out at Yorkshire Dales? Because it's not easy to put yourself forward to do things. So how did you actually find yourself getting involved, helping out as a member and becoming a member?
It was all Phil's fault. He was like, "Oh, come and help do this. Come and watch this." So I just went along, and I ended up helping out on the gate. That became a big thing. I was always on the blooming gate till like 4 a.m. on some days. So I ended up helping on the gate, helping with track preparation. I was always like rolling the track, and never driven a track to my life. Just I probably got thrown into it at the deep end. I was mowing grass because he liked it like a showground. Yeah. And then so that was 2015, and he bought me the Class 6 in October 2015. So I was like the longest wait in the world during winter. 2016 came along, and that was it. It was like, right, you can go race. And I was like, what? Don't get any training? Do I not get any teaching or anything? There's no instructors? No, just get in the car and race. I was like, you're joking. And it was pretty much from the start going in the deep end, but I couldn't wait to get more involved and to actually race myself. And watching these people zooming around was such a buzz, just watching them. To be able to actually do it was just huge. It was awesome.
Yeah, of course, and obviously you've continued on from that and you've not stopped. So yeah, you'd one of your first major meetings getting involved in was a ladies and juniors national. So obviously being a lady yourself and being involved with that meeting must have been a massive experience to discover that it is a meeting specifically for lady racers and obviously the upcoming juniors. So seeing all these talented ladies racing, that must have really given you that urge to have a go even further.
It really did. I was absolutely in awe of these women and these junior drivers. These 12-year-olds were zooming round, and I was absolutely in awe of them. And like even the Class 7s and the Class 8s, they're just ridiculous. And I thought, wow, these women have got massive balls, And I just thought, I want to be like them. I want to race. I want to drive a car like that. And it looked so much fun. I couldn't believe when I was actually able to be a part of it. But then that was just a huge learning curve in itself, just learning how to drive a car. I thought I could drive, but no.
No, it is different when you get on a track. Obviously, different mindset, different thoughts go through with how you get a car off the start. It's not like when you do set off at a traffic lights when you're supposed to do it leisurely. It's a different, but you've also got that pressure of cars around you. So we're going to get into obviously the early days of your actual racing career. So you ended up in a Class 6, obviously the most powerful of the front wheel drive car classes you can have, and obviously it sounds like a much more powerful car than you'd had on the road up to that point anyway. So when you first actually got to the start line in that car for your first ever race, just relive what were some of those thoughts going through your mind as how you were going to get on.
Yeah, I remember watching. I think it was men's Class 7s going off the line on the day of my very first race, and I thought I was going to actually die. I was so nervous. I couldn't walk. I was shaking. I was like jelly. I was breathing heavily. I was thinking, I can't actually do this. It's something I've wanted all my life, and now I can't do it. So Phil was like, shut up, just get in the car. Tough love. So I got in the car and I followed everyone. I thought, I actually don't know what I'm doing. So I followed everyone to the holding lines and I sat there for what felt like an age, waiting to be called up to the start line. And then everyone fired up their engines and I was like, oh my gosh, it's coming. So I got on the start line and there's about 3 races in front of you and you watch all them set off and you think, oh my gosh, it's nearly me. And then you get to the front and the bungee comes down and you're watching the race in front of you. Talking about it now just makes me all excited. And when you're watching the race and you watch them come in and you're trying to remember everything you've been told, like engage gear, put the bungee on, put the fan on, you've got all these checks to do, but there's no one there to help you.
Yeah.
because they're not allowed on the start line, and it was terrifying. But
Yeah.
the moment the bungee lifted and I set off, of course everyone set off and I was last, but the buzz just driving on the racetrack and the sound of the car was just phenomenal. And I'll never forget the amazing feeling of coming into the pits thinking, I don't care if I've been lapped, that was awesome, I want to do it again. And after that, it's just the buzz.
That's how it grabs you. Once you have had that first initial go, it does draw you back for more. But I'm sure that first race in two ways, it probably felt like the longest time in the car ever, but also the shortest. And before you knew it, the checkered flag was out, and you were like, "Oh, is that it? I want another go and another go." And that's how it draws you in. But in all fairness, you didn't actually get that much time to practice in the car. And then you was off to actually compete at your first ladies and juniors nationals. So you'd obviously seen it, how the meeting was at Yorkshire Dales by being involved, but then you actually got to live it out as a racer as well. So I when I was a kid, it was always one of the most exciting times ever. I was in the van with my dad, and you could just see as you'd approach where the meeting was being held, and you could see how packed it was. All the motorhomes and the vehicles, and then you could see the trailer park with all the cars heading into the pits and that. So to go to a meeting like that to race for the first time, there must have been a lot of excitement going through there as well. So what was your thoughts on going to something like that?
I couldn't believe that it had even been suggested that I go to the nationals, because I hadn't had much practice. I was only ever racing at YD at the time. It wasn't the first year, so it was 2017, I think it was. Or was it? I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure it wasn't the first year I was racing. I think he'll raced 5 times the first season. So the second season, he said, right, go to the ladies and juniors. And I was like, are you mad? No way. And he said, just do it. I was like, fine. So the 2 weeks before, I went to watch the men's nationals. And when I pulled up, what a phenomenal sight. There were motorhomes, camper vans everywhere. We just watched all the racing. It was absolutely amazing. And I thought, I can't wait to do this myself. So 2 weeks later, we went down to the same track at Hereford, at Cumdu track. And there was barely anyone there. And I thought, whoa, that's a bit of a disappointment. Where is everyone? Yeah. And apparently that was quite a usual scene for the ladies and juniors. The lack of support was just saddening to me, and that was another reason why I wanted to write about it, because compared to the men's nationals, we didn't get much support at all, and it was really quite sad, because we do provide a lot of entertainment. The juniors are fantastic to watch, the ladies are awesome, and I thought, well, yeah, why don't we get the same? So that's a question that remains unanswered.
Yeah, unfortunately so. I mean, one aspect I can only put it down to is that time of year, through August through to September, it is a very busy period, and unfortunately not everybody can contribute to it all. I mean, I love going to the ladies and juniors nationals. I think it's a fantastic weekend, and the talent which gets on that track is equal to what you get at the men's. But it's the way life is sometimes, unfortunately. But I'm sure the sport on the ladies and junior side will hopefully continue to grow, especially now junior age has changed. But we do hope that more ladies do continue to get drawn into it, as yourself has. So just going back then, for your first nationals, how did that actually go? Did it go well? Did it go not so well?
No. Yeah, it didn't go well. It was a learning curve. I'd only ever raced practically by myself or against other classes in the classics at YD. There was only 1 or 2 other races, and they didn't come to every meeting. So I wasn't used to racing with people. So I suppose it was more of an opportunity to learn how to race with people, which I did eventually. But I watched the footage quite a lot and think, oh gosh, how cringy was that? There's one of my races, I come off and I don't realise the race is finished, and I'm zooming around and everyone else is coming off. So I end up just at the very end of the footage, I'm like that, coming off the track thinking, oh no, everyone's going. There was one where I got bashed into the infield. So I was doing well. It's my first ever race at the nationals, and I was doing really well. I think I was coming second, and at one point I came first out of the corner. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually first in nationals. It lasted a millisecond. I got bashed into the infield and then came last. And then at one point, I think I got a green flag for contact, and I thought, was that even me? Was that my fault? And I thought, I don't like this game. This is scary. I'm getting told off now. And then by the second day, after being furious with myself for being so rubbish the day before, I sort of I booked up the courage to get back out for my third heat, and I came fourth, and I was like, yeah, that'll do for, you know, my first ever attempt. So I was quite pleased with that, but yeah, it was quite appalling.
No, but for at least as a self-confidence point of view, it ended better than you expected it to. So you obviously have to take away some positives from that. But your Class 6 career, unfortunately, came to quite a quick end after that, because it was decided that the car was going to go up for sale, and without actually knowing at the time, there was going to be a new direction for you.
No,
As
I
to
didn't have a clue. It was just down to the lack of people to race with at my home track at YD. There were no other Class 6 racers. Sarah Allmack had moved on to Class 7, and I think she was the only other person really, unless away drivers came, but there weren't many. So I got involved with the Kelly family, who were really, really well known in Stockhatch, and I got really good friends with Lauren. And I think she was one that convinced me to get a Stockhatch, and then I was allowed to race her brothers at the Bass round, and that was it. I was hooked. I was like, I need to do Stockhatch. So actually, at the end of that race meet, I bought their Stockhatch that I raced.
Yes.
But then there's a funny story of how I ended up with something else. I don't know if you wanted to ask that a bit later, so I won't say that now.
No, it does actually bring us on to that, because pretty much at exactly the same time as you ended up buying this Stockhatch, which you'd only driven for the first time that weekend, Phil dropped it on you that he'd bought you a car himself for you to try. And you could have a life too.
So I ended up with 2 cars at the end of the first ever Bass round that I'd driven in, and I'd actually done quite well in that Bass round. So yeah, I decided that I fell in love with Stockhatch, and that was a class for me, and there were people to race with, and I was friends with a lot of them. And then I came into the pits and said, by the way, I think I've just bought that car. I hope you don't mind. He goes, oh, well, if you look over there, you see that black car over there? Yeah, I've just bought that. I was like, oh no. Wow, but oh no, what do I do? So I ended up with 2 cars for a while, which proved a bit of a handful.
It's not always easy trying to divide your focus between 2 cars, especially when at a club meeting you don't even get the time to do that in ladies racing, because obviously there's only so few races for it. But it could have been worse. He could have bought you a Stockhatch himself, or so you'd have had 2 of those. But so in the way then, you ended up with the 2 cars. I think the Class 2 you had up to the end of last year. I'm not sure if that remained or if that car went, and you ended up just solely focusing on Stockhatch, from what I know anyway. So obviously you was racing against people you'd got to know, but what was it about this basic class, the Stockhatches, which really you found more entertaining? So what was it about that class?
Mainly it was because I had people to race with, and you know, I got friendly with these people, so it was lots of fun. There was lots of banter in the pits about, you know, coming up racing, and a bit of banter with all the lads as well. They're like, oh, you drive Stockhatch, oh, big balls, you know. So it was a lot of fun, a lot of banter, but it was just a fun car to drive as well. It felt more like a normal car. Like the Class 6 felt so highly strung, and the Stockhatch was just like jumping in your daily driver. It was ace, and I thought, yeah, this is great fun. You know, no dials to faff around with. It was just a basic fan on, bungee if your car won't stay in second, and off you go. You were away, and it was just great fun. And it was less. My Class 6 felt quite flimsy, whereas a Stockhatch feels quite butch. Really, it can take a lot of hit, take a lot of stick and stuff. Whereas the Class 6 seems to always break. So there seems to be a lot of positives with this Stockhatch class, and even though people say, oh, it's a subclass, I just loved it. I really, really got to grips with it.
Well, Stockhatch is growing, and I mean, it's always been popular in the Northern Territory anyway, and I suppose that's another thing. It's better if you can actually go out and race 4 or 5 other people, rather than, as you've already stressed upon, that you go out and you end up racing on your own, and you don't fully gain any more knowledge, any more experience by racing yourself. So, but it makes it even better that you ended up in this group of people where you can sort of laugh and joke and give each other a bit of stick before you go out. Then you can go and race each other, and you can brag about it if you beat them after. So that's what the friendly nature of the sport is. But you did mention about, obviously, that the Class 6 couldn't take as much of a knock as the stock catch. Unfortunately, you have had one or two knocks in the stock catch.
Yes.
I think was it in that car which you had a little shunt at Yorkshire Dales at the Bass Round? Was it only last year or the year before?
Yeah, I think it was 2018 Bass Round, and I think you were either commentating on it or you were filming it and you caught it on your phone. Yeah, that was quite painful. I got a bit of a shunt and just totally lost control of the car, and I can't believe how quickly the Armco just comes towards you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. I thought
No.
I tried steering away, I tried steering towards, I tried braking, I tried not braking, and within that very short space of time, I think I tried about 10 different moves, none of which worked. And there was a fence, and I thought, oh my gosh, is it going to hurt? And yeah, hit the fence, but I was quite proud of myself because I just sort of looked around me and thought, I'm all right, and I put my thumbs up and I just got the toe of shame and yeah, jumped straight into the Class 2.
Yeah. So, am I right in saying that you don't have the Class 2 anymore and you do just have the stock catch? Is that
I
correct?
do just have the catch. Yeah, I was very sad to see the Class 2 go, but I barely used it. I did do very well in the few races I did get to go in it, but I loved the stock catch too much. It was so much fun. I had people to race with. Class 2 wasn't that well attended at YD at the time, and so it got moved on, unfortunately. I would have loved to have kept it, but I can't have two race cars.
No. Sometimes one is more than enough for some, which obviously. But it's great that in this short time you have found a class that you do enjoy, one that you're comfortable in, one which you can obviously get excited to go to each meeting because you've got the people to race. So, but if now that you've obviously had a bit more racing experience, if the chance to go back in a Class 6 happened, would you do it?
I think I probably would actually, yeah, because now I actually can sort of drive. I think I'd like another chance just to see how I found it, because now I know what to do and where to put the car in the corners and stuff. I'd very much like to have another go in a higher power car and just see how it went and enjoy that the pull of the engine, because 1.6 versus a 240 brake horsepower red top engine, it just doesn't compare, does it? So
No.
I would like another go.
So then if you put all three cars side by side, regardless of how many people you got to race against and all that on a meeting, if you had all three cars sat there, which would you jump in first?
That's a tough one. You got me on the spot there. I think I just love the stock hatch. I think it'd be the stock hatch all day long.
Yeah.
I really love that car. It's not the most powerful. It's not the prettiest. Well, mine is. I love it. I keep it right, but I love it. I just love the stock hatch. It's such a fun class to be in.
Yeah, well, obviously the finishing touches on when the stock hatch was given the makeover was that you got a couple of GrassChat stickers on the back, so that's what finished that off and made.
And I have to mention my sponsors as well because that got a makeover. Am I allowed to plug them?
Well, yeah, you can go for it. We would do that at the end, but you're more than welcome to mention them now if you want.
Yeah, okay. Mark Grant and Marty Gray of MG Automotive very kindly said that they would sponsor me, and they sorted out the makeover on my car. And it was a big surprise. I didn't know they were going to sort that out for me. So when they brought it after getting the engine rebuilt, they brought it to YD and they said, "Oh, we haven't had time to put the stickers on," and I uncovered it, and there it was with all the stickers on, and I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. So thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated.
Yeah, so obviously that you did get the car originally, and it'd been fairly used. It had to be said, and you did mention that in your one of your stories. But that obviously seeing that and then ready to race, and you could jump in it, that must have obviously given you straight away some extra confidence to go in and do it. Hopefully, you wasn't too nervous in case it got a scratch though. But
I was terrified. I was going around all the girls saying, "Don't touch the paint, don't touch the paintwork."
So basically, then you've was 2019, was that your third full year in stock hatches?
Second year, yeah, second full year. Yeah, started in 2018.
Yeah, so you started to do a bit more. You have branched out from Yorkshire Dales a little bit, and you have done some other meetings. But last year proved fairly successful for you. You've competed at a couple of the Stock Hatch Nationals now. So for a Stockhatch Nationals, how does that feel to you as an overall event?
I couldn't wait. I thought it was great fun that we got our own nationals. Although I think well, I did actually vote quite a few times to have it involved in the main nationals, which I think we've won now, haven't we? But it was quite special to have our own nationals. So when I went down to the first one, I think that was 2018. I was so excited. It was during the fastest man on grass, and I just couldn't believe I was going to my own nationals on my own Stockhatch. It was my class, and I had people to race with, and there were two or three heats of ladies to race with. It was great. And there were so many different cars and so many different ladies to race with, some people who don't even normally race Stockhatch. And to say that was my first ever nationals, Stockhatch Nationals, I did really well. I was quite impressed with myself. I think I came second in nearly all the heats, and then the finals came, and it rained.
It was very wet, wasn't it?
It was ridiculous, and I did rubbish. I came seventh, I think.
So obviously we'll touch about that then. So obviously some practice where you need to put yourself forward is maybe driving in the rain. It's obviously a different skill level compared to driving in when it's perfect conditions. And obviously there'll be some more ambitions to go forward. So what would your future plans be? Obviously continuing Stockhatch, racing against the ladies. Have you set yourself any plans for when racing gets back underway? Have you got any targets you want to achieve?
I'd like to have a go at some more bass rounds. Very, very excited to go and try again at the nationals after. Well, I came fourth this year, last year, which I was really pleased with. So I'd like to have another go at that and see how I do. Maybe do some UK. My main mission this year, if we were allowed to race, was to just go to some different tracks, because I got my trailer license and I got my race van. So I'm all ready and raring to go. And then lockdown happened, but I'd love to just go to a few more different tracks and just get some practice in, and possibly race in the rain, because that's something we don't often get to do, because usually the race meetings are cancelled.
Yeah.
So main aim, learn to race in the rain, because I can't, and continue to enter some bigger events.
Yeah, because obviously when it comes to racing in the rain, as you say, unfortunately, a lot of the time that only happens at a major event because they can't cancel it. So unfortunately, you don't usually get that practice at a club meeting unless it's a surprise shower or a heavily watered track. But so just going back a little bit. So last year was your best year in this short time racing. Obviously, you continued to support Yorkshire Dales, and you did well there. You won your class at the Baz Round, and you did well at the Stockhatch Nationals. So that's obviously, that must have been a great achievement for you to do that. Are you obviously you are looking forward to more racing to come? What sort of cheap plug can you do on Stockhatches though to maybe draw one or two more in? We did speak to Claire Horner, who's guest driven in a couple of Stockhatches, and she thinks the class is great, and more people should have a go at it. It does favour some of those who maybe want to get into the sport and haven't got the experience, and can learn from that. So what can you actually pass on to others about Stockhatch racing?
I have to say, and I always do plug Stockhatches, like if somebody says to me, how do I get into racing? I send them screenshots of Stockhatches for sale. I don't even tell them the other classes. I say Stockhatch, because it's higher power than a class one, which is also another affordable class. I think Stockhatch is probably the most affordable class, sometimes known as the poor man's class. But it's great fun. It's affordable. The banter is second to none. The racing's brilliant, and there's always people to race with. Whereas other classes, sometimes you'll be sat there on your own or with one other person. So I think the main attraction for me is the fact that you've got people to race, and it's affordable, and it's great fun.
Yeah, well, of course. And people always complain about the costs of motorsport and how it is. So there is the perfect entry level class if you want to get into it. It is growing for both men's and ladies. There are more and more getting involved. So it's definitely an option out there if people want to do it. And the only way it can grow in other regions is if people actually make that start with it. So yeah, definitely great to do that. So we've obviously learned a little bit about your autograss life, which continues to grow, and I hope you are planning on doing more to come when every opportunity arises. And so just very quickly then, what else outside, what did you do before you got involved with autographs, and what do you continue to do now? Just any other interests?
So I've grown up around horses. I did horse riding all my life, and then I got into biking and motorbikes. But then I got into MGs in a big way after a motorbike accident, and I started doing auto testing just at the MG Live event that happens down in Silverstone. And the first year I tried that, I went for the auto test. It's called the California Cup, and I won the fastest lady title. Unbelievably, I'd never done an auto test before in my life. Just did it in my little MGF, and then every year for the last 3 years, I've gone and done it, and I've won fastest lady. So I'm becoming quite well known in the MG world for that, which is fun. And having got into motorsport, I then had to go at a night road rally in December last year in my MGTF, and I won that class as well. So yeah, it's definitely there. I've got the buzz for motorsport, and I'd quite like to try other things as well if I ever get the chance.
Okay, so horsepower in any way, shape, or form is something which obviously you're very interested in. So that's great. We've learned quite a bit tonight. Obviously, it's always great to see how somebody gets involved with a sport and how they actually see it with open eyes, especially when you didn't actually grow up into it like many other people did. So it's fantastic to learn that. So that pretty much wraps it up. So I thank you so much for taking your time to do this, Helen. I hope you've been happy enough to share a bit of your story.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me. And just another shameless plug, there are loads of these available left to buy. Please buy them. They're fantastic magazines, and it's a shame they had to end. And thank you for letting me write in them.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Helen Blake has been my guest tonight here on GrassChat. Thank you so much. Thank you, Helen. We'll see you soon.
Bye.